All right, today we're going to be taking a look at the pole position mini arcade racing game from MyArcade. Man, I ordered this thing back on November 4th from Amazon, and it finally arrived. Does this thing live up to the hype? Well, let's find out. Now, before we get started, I did want to point out that my only experience with these MyArcade mini arcades was nearly 5 years ago. I bought a Data East 34-in-1 MyArcade cabinet. It was larger than this. It had a 4.25-inch screen versus this 3.5-inch screen. However, it was a widescreen and every game was stretched. And that, coupled with the fact that the controls were so bad, the buttons were some of the worst that I've ever felt on any D-pad or any kind of a video game controller ever. The joystick was this kind of a hybrid D-pad with this twist-off joystick. It was not good.
It was awful.
So I ended up selling that at a convention and got my money back for what I paid for it. It just wasn't that great. I mean, it was cool that there was actual arcade ROMs on there, but it was basically unplayable. All right, so I got some batteries installed. Let's take a look at this thing just really quick here. You got this steering wheel here, kind of stiff, but free spinning, doesn't have any stops on it. I do have your shifter high-low. I did notice that it's got a satisfying click when you go into low, but down into high, you can't really hear anything. If you can hear that. There's gas in the brake, kind of spongy. The same with these buttons. These remind me of the MyArcade unit that I used to have. Had these very springy, loud, clicky buttons. Fake coin door, which the one that I actually had, the way that you powered it on back then was you pushed in on that coin door and that powered it on. That was actually kind of a nice touch, where this is just a sticker. So on the back, we've got your volume up and down. There's your power on and off. You've got your USB-C. This is a brightness control. You've got 3 levels, a low, medium, and a high, and then you've got a headphone jack. But overall, looks okay. Graphics are nice. I mean, they can't really mimic the original. I get that, but they did a good job with the graphics. It kind of looks like a Sega Astro City arcade cabinet in a way, kind of squatty, kind of small, but overall, yeah, I think they did a good job. Bezel looks nice. So let's... All right, so now I just want to prove if this is the actual arcade ROM like they claim, and this is how that's going to work. So the actual arcade game, there was a hack. Depending on when you put a credit in, you could actually control the grouping of the cars on the first hairpin turn. So if you put a credit in, once the machine is booted up, and you did that before the attract mode, you would actually get the bad grouping, and the first 2 cars you would see an orange car on the right, and then a white car on the left, and then you would have a more congested bunch of cars on that first hairpin. If you put in a credit after the attract mode starts, then you would actually get what they called a good grouping, where you would see the orange car on the left, and then the white car on the right, and then you would have less cars on that hairpin, and it'd be easier to navigate that turn. So let's go ahead and test that out. All right, I'm going to put this down here so it's a little easier for me to actually control. All right, I'm going to pick pole position 1 because it only works on that first Fuji track. And then get ready here. Okay. Make sure I'm in low gear. All right, I'm not trying to get a first place or anything. I'm just trying not to die, so you can see here. All right, so there's the orange car. There is the white car. All right, and I died. Okay, so at least we know that that first time it did work. So let's turn the unit off. Okay, so now we want the orange car on the left, white car on the right. That will definitely prove that the same arcade hack actually works. Flip it into low here. We're going to pick pole position 1. I'm going to wait to hit the credit until we get to the attract mode. All right, here we go. Let's set this down here. Hopefully I can navigate these turns. All right, there is the orange car. There is the white car. And I still died.
Oh my God, you suck!
If I could have hit that turn a little sooner, there really wouldn't have been any cars there. So we have proven that you can actually control the grouping, just like the arcade game. And yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, so I'm going to spend a couple days with this thing and run it through its paces before I give my final thoughts. So be back soon.
3 days later.
So what are my thoughts on this mini racing pole position cabinet after playing around with it for the last few days? Well, let's go over the pros first. And I think the biggest would have to be having the actual ROMs for pole position 1 and 2. I think that's a huge win for MyArcade. And you saw earlier in the video that I did prove that these are the actual ROMs. The hack from the arcade does actually work. You can control the grouping of the cars. It's very cool. And having pole position 2 is a nice touch. Now, it's a game that I've never really played that much. This was one that wasn't in the arcades back when I was a kid. You don't usually see that one. You always see the first pole position. But yeah, I did get a rude awakening. It is very, very difficult to even qualify, much less not die 2 times on the first lap of just about any of the tracks. But again, it's nice that it's there. You can practice, maybe get better the next time you go to an arcade. Maybe it'll actually get you on the leaderboard. Who knows? And I think the next positive would have to be the controls. This steering wheel is really what makes this playable. You know, I've got pole position on my multicade, but I can't play it with joysticks. I can't even map the controls. I would have to map like an Xbox controller and use the analog stick. It just wouldn't be the same. So without having to spend $1,000 minimum for an actual pole position cabinet or thousands of dollars for a racing multicade, this is really the best way for me to play this game currently. And yeah, it was $50, or if you get it on sale, you can get it maybe for around 40. You know, I think that's a pretty big step up from what MyArcade was doing in the past. Normally, they would throw on like some NES ROMs on here and be like, yeah, we're done with it. You don't like it, so what?
What are you going to do about it?
I think the final positive would be the fact that it does save high scores. Whether you take the batteries out or just power it off, you come back to it, and then your high scores are going to be in there. So that's something, again, that MyArcade was not doing in the past. Now, when it comes to the cons, I would say the biggest one would have to be the size. Having a 3.5-inch screen to play a racing game is not ideal. Also, this wheel, while it is very, very usable, it is also small. So how you use it really depends on how well you play in the game. I felt like I had the most control when my hands were kind of on top of it, and then you had to hold this in a specific way in order to do that. Doing it like this really isn't getting you the best control. You're going to miss those hairpin turns. Maybe someone will make a hack. I don't know if the kids will remember, there used to be a knob back in the day that you would put on a steering wheel of a truck or something, and you could actually control the sharper turns on a bigger steering wheel that way. I don't know if somebody could 3D print something and maybe make this a little bit more user-friendly. We'll see as time goes on. Another thing would have to probably be the batteries. You do have 2 choices, USB-C or batteries. I was using Energizers. They did fine. You know, depending on the quality of your batteries, you're going to get probably plenty of life out of them if they're rechargeable. But I would have liked to have seen at $50 maybe a rechargeable battery. That would have been nice. Also, a lit marquee. That's kind of nitpicking, but you know, it would be cool to have just a little light back here that would show through here. That would just really make this more look like an actual arcade. And then finally, an HDMI out would be really nice, because then you wouldn't have to worry about the 3.5-inch screen. You could use this as your controller. I would probably then use my right hand and play on the TV with the TV being my screen. that would have been a really nice touch. Again, kind of nitpicking here at this price point, but those are just some of the things that I would say are negatives. Now, another negative might be just this thing not being the most comfortable to hold and to play like a Switch or a Steam Deck or anything like that. I didn't really find it to be that uncomfortable. I did play this in different situations where I was sitting on a couch in a chair. You saw in the video that I kind of had it tilted here on the corner. Qualified in pole position. It really wasn't that bad. I think the main thing is getting the best possible grip for you to hold the steering wheel. That's probably the main thing, but it's not the most uncomfortable to hold, and I think that most people will find the best way to play this properly. All right, guys, so that is my thoughts on this pole position mini arcade from MyArcade. I would say that despite a few shortcomings, this is something that I would recommend. Now, if you didn't grow up with pole position, I don't know if I would recommend it. I did. I always loved this game. No matter when I saw it at an arcade, I would pump some quarters into it. So for me, this is something that I'm going to keep. I don't plan on making a little tiny arcade, Barbie-sized arcade, but this is one that I can't replicate these controls for, you know, this price point. So this is something I am going to keep for now until I come up with something better. All right, guys, so let me know what you think of this thing. Have you bought it? Are you considering buying it? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And as always, if you learned something or you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that thumbs up and turn that notification bell so you know when I upload videos like this one. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.